A significant rift has emerged across the Atlantic, signaling a period of profound disagreement between historic allies. As we stand here on September 15, 2025, the very foundations of the US-European relationship are being tested. The Trump administration has recently put forth a series of bold, and some would say radical proposals on matters of global security, international law, trade. These are not minor policy tweaks. They are fundamental shifts in long-standing American foreign policy. However, in a coordinated and unusually firm display of unity, a powerful bloc of 13 European Union member states has unequivocally rejected these American plans, creating a diplomatic standoff with shocking implications for the global order. This is not a single, isolated incident of disagreement. Instead, we are witnessing a pattern of defiance on multiple critical fronts. A plan to formally recognize Russian sovereignty over Crimea, a dramatic new approach to the conflict in Gaza, the imposition of stringent trade tariffs that threaten to unravel decades of economic cooperation. The European response has been swift and resolute. Leaders from across the continent have made it clear that they will not follow Washington's lead, viewing these proposals as a direct challenge to their values, their security, the international rules-based order they have long championed. The scale of this rejection is what makes it so striking. This is not just a quiet diplomatic memo or a behind-the-scenes disagreement. This is a public and forceful pushback from some of America's closest partners. The unified front presented by these 13 EU nations, Spain, Ireland, demonstrates a newfound willingness to chart their own course, even if it means openly opposing the United States. At the heart of the European rejection are core principles of international law and human rights, which leaders on the continent feel are being dangerously undermined. The American proposal to formally recognize Russian control over Crimea, presented as a potential component of a peace deal for Ukraine, was met with immediate and forceful condemnation. For European nations, this idea crosses an inviolable red line. An EU official speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive matter stated unequivocally, "Crimea, future NATO membership aspirations are red lines for us." This sentiment was echoed across European capitals, where leaders view such a move as a reward for aggression and a blatant violation of a sovereign nation's territorial integrity. This strong stance is rooted in Europe's own history and geography. The principle that borders cannot be changed by force is a cornerstone of the continent's post-World War II security architecture. To accept Russia's annexation of Crimea would, in their view, set a catastrophic precedent that could destabilize the entire region. Similarly, the Trump administration's unexpected plan for Gaza, which reportedly included the mass displacement of 1.8 million Palestinians, was met with horror and disbelief in Europe. Spain, Ireland, were among the most vocal critics, both having recognized the state of Palestine in 2024. They immediately voiced their strenuous opposition, saying it upends decades of established American foreign policy and international consensus on a two-state solution. European leaders roundly condemned the plan as a grave violation of international humanitarian law, with many calling it simply unacceptable on moral and legal grounds. For these European nations, the Gaza proposal was not just a policy disagreement, it was an affront to the fundamental human rights they claimed to champion. The transatlantic tensions are not confined to geopolitics and international law. They have spilled over into the economic arena, creating a new battlefield centered on trade and tariffs. Earlier this year, Ursula von der Leyen extended a significant olive branch to the United States. She proposed a zero-for-zero tariffs for industrial goods arrangement that would have eliminated tariffs on a vast array of products, fostering freer trade between the world's two largest economic blocs. This offer was seen in Brussels as a major concession, but it was flatly rejected by President Trump. His administration framed its rationale as unfairness, claiming Europe takes advantage of the United States. President Trump publicly lamented that the EU doesn't take American cars or agricultural products while sending millions of European cars to the US. That protectionist stance effectively shut the door on the EU's offer. The rejection sent a clear message. The Trump administration wanted to rebalance the economic relationship on its own terms. After months of difficult talks and public disagreements, a breakthrough was announced. On July 27, 2025, von der Leyen and Trump reached an agreement on tariffs and trade. Washington hailed the details as a victory for American interests, but in Europe the reception was far from celebratory, exposing deep divisions within the EU. The French Prime Minister called it a submission. Meanwhile, the German chancellor warned it would damage his country's finances. Even with a deal, underlying resentment and a sense of an imbalanced partnership continued to fester, poisoning the economic relationship. While the unified front against American proposals on Crimea and Gaza was remarkable, it's crucial to understand that the European Union is not always a monolithic entity. The recent tensions have also highlighted the significant internal disagreements that often exist within the bloc. Member states frequently find themselves at odds with each other but also with the central governing body, the European Commission. This internal fragmentation is a persistent feature of the EU, and honestly it adds another layer of complexity to its role on the world stage. A clear example of this internal friction can be seen in the ongoing debate over the EU's own environmental policies. In February 2025, the European Commission proposed a package of measures that critics argued would severely roll back the ambitious Green Deal. This so-called omnibus simplification package was seen by environmental groups and several member states as a concession to corporate pressure, designed to undermine critical rules on climate action and human rights. This move from the Commission itself prompted calls for member states to reject their own executive body's proposal, illustrating a dynamic where national governments are pushed to act as a check on the central EU institutions. A similar dynamic is emerging in the cutting-edge field of space exploration and regulation. In June 2025, the European Commission put forward a proposal for a new EU Space Act. The stated goal was ambitious: to create a single, harmonized legal system for all space activities across the European Union, replacing the fragmented patchwork of national laws. However, this top-down approach has been met with significant resistance from several member states who view space as a domain of national strategic interest. The events of the past year represent a watershed moment for American foreign policy and its relationship with the European Union. The coordinated rejection of U.S. proposals by 13 member states sends an unmistakable signal. The era of automatic transatlantic alignment is over. European nations are increasingly willing to assert their own interests and values, even when it means publicly breaking with Washington. For American policymakers, this new reality requires a fundamental reassessment of strategy. The assumption that Europe will simply fall in line with American leadership can no longer be taken for granted. Instead, the path forward will require more consultation, more compromise, greater respect for the EU as a co-equal partner on the global stage. This shift has profound implications for American power and influence. A divided West is a weaker West, less capable of addressing shared challenges such as a rising China, global climate change, Russian aggression. Looking ahead, the United States has a choice to make. It can continue down a path of unilateralism and America First policies, leading to further alienation of European partners. Alternatively, Washington can engage in genuine dialogue, acknowledging European perspectives on security, trade, international law. Ultimately, the future health of the US-EU relationship depends on mutual recognition of a new multipolar reality. The shocking fallout of 2025 is a clear warning, but also an opportunity to forge a more mature, resilient partnership for the challenges that lie ahead.